Hey there, this is another video in the Getting Started with Fountain Pen series, and in this one we're going to learn how to identify types of pens. The type of filling mechanism your pen has informs us on how to fill, clean, and in some cases use the pen. So in about 5 minutes from now, you'll be able to identify the 5 basic types of fountain pens. Those 5 are cartridge converters, piston fillers, vacuum fillers, eyedropper fillers, and retractables. I'll make it easy for you and say that if you have the instruction booklet that came with your pen, it'll tell you what kind of pen it is and you're done. Barring that, if you know what brand and model it is, sometimes it's printed on the pen itself, you can just go and Google it. But let's say somebody has sent you a pen that you have no idea what it is, or even if it is a pen. So let's take the steps that we need in order to figure it out. Let's start with the last group first, since retractables are easily distinguishable from all of the rest of the pens. First of all, you'll notice that none of these have caps. And the reason for that is because the nib is kept inside of the body. To deploy the nib, we press this button here, the clicker, as some people call it, or as it's known in the industry, the knock. Sometimes it's a twisting mechanism like this knob here on this pilot. Or maybe the whole body collapses, or maybe you twist the body to deploy the nib. And that's about it there for retractables. Pretty easy. The rest of the pens we'll be doing in the order of most likely to least likely that you'll encounter them. Most common pen is probably this one here, and this is the cartridge converter pen. A cartridge is simply a plastic tube that goes onto the inside of the pen, and it's filled with ink, and ink comes out one end and goes through the section, which is this area here that you hold on to, and out the nib. A converter is simply a reusable cartridge, and you can clean these out and fill them back up with ink really quite easily. To figure out if you have a cartridge converter pen, grab a hold of the grip section and then twist the body in a counterclockwise motion, and it should come apart like this. This is showing that it has a cartridge in here, which I can remove. And this one here, maybe not as easily identified as a cartridge converter pen, but that's what it is. If we hold on to the grip section here and twist the body, the whole body spins, and once we've got through all of these threads here, we have a cartridge on the inside. If the barrel of the pen doesn't unscrew, it could be a piston filler or a vacuum filler. I'm going to cover both of these together because they are quite similar in identifying how they work. All three of them, this one here is a piston filler, and these two are vacuum fillers. All of them have what we call a blind cap, which is simply a cap that hides underneath it a mechanism. Sometimes they're easily seen, as it is in these two here, or sometimes it can be completely invisible until you actually try to use it. So what we want to do is grab a hold of the body securely and then twist the top of this in a counterclockwise motion, just like we did with the other pen, and you can see that it is starting to open. What's happening now is this pen here is moving a piston down the barrel towards this end here, and eventually in a piston filler, the blind cap will stop spinning. Don't force it any more than it wants to go. That's all you need to know in order for this to be a piston filler. For a vacuum filler, it's usually a little bit different. The blind cap will continue to spin until you take further action. So I could sit here and do this all day long and nothing's going to happen. So if I pull it on a little bit, now I see that there is a plunger here, which will help fill the pen. There's ink in this one, so I don't want to activate the plunger, otherwise we'll get a big fountain of ink out this end. But here's another one. This is a Pilot 823, and it also has a blind cap here. And if I spin this, you can see it's starting to come off, and now it's just going to spin forever. But if I give it a little bit of a tug, you can see that there's a rod here, which is part of the filling mechanism. Okay, pretty easy so far. So now let's introduce a little bit of complication. Here we have eyedropper fillers, and eyedropper fillers are intended to be filled with an eyedropper. You take the ink out of a bottle and use an eyedropper to fill it up. We'll demonstrate that in another video. But these can also masquerade as either a cartridge converter pen or as a piston filler. So let's talk about the differences a little bit. First of all, if you grab a hold of the section and the body and you twist in a counterclockwise motion, it opens up just like a cartridge converter pen does. However, if we take a cartridge or a converter and we try to insert it in here, it doesn't fit. And if you look on the inside, you'll see a cylinder in there with a hole in the middle of it. And that is for the ink to flow from the body of the pen into the section and out through the nib. If we take a look at a cartridge converter pen, it has a much smaller item in there. It's more like a spike shape, and it is about the width of a pencil lead. And so it's quite a bit different than inside an eyedropper filler. Now, your higher end eyedropper fillers will have an additional feature like this one does, which will make it easy to confuse it with a piston filler. And the reason for that is there is a blind cap here and also a rod. But this rod isn't for filling the pen, it is for pushing. As you can see, there's a little item that's moving on the inside. Think of it as a cork that hits a opening here and plugs up the section, so the section and the body are no longer connected. You want to use it that way or store it that way if you're going to be throwing it in a bag and it's going to be tossed around, or if you're going to be on an airplane or anywhere where there might be a pressure change. The body still comes apart from the section here, so you can tell that it is a eyedropper filler. A couple of other things to look at are there's an O-ring here. This one here is black. It's this section right here. And this one here has one that is clear. And these are used to help prevent ink leaking from the body to the outside of the pen. There will also typically be more threads, as you see in this one here. However, this one here is about the same as a normal cartridge converter pen. And that's the end of our checklist. To recap, your best bet is to RTFM or read the fabulous manual, or just Google it. If it has a knock or a twist or anything like that and the nib is hidden, then it is a retractable. If the pen separates between the body and the grip section, as this one does here, then it's probably a cartridge converter pen. If it has a blind cap that eventually stops moving as you twist it, as this one does, then it is probably a piston filler. If it has a blind cap that continues to spin and can be pulled away from the pen somehow, then it is most likely a vacuum filler. And then lastly, just make sure that it's not an eyedropper. So that's it for identifying pens. If this was helpful, please like the video and consider subscribing to get more tips in the days to come. Thanks for watching.